presents Chocolate Yoddah Live.
Hi folks, Chocolate Yoddah here, spelled Y-O-D-D-A-H, because film studios are litigious, and literally 2 minutes before I fired this up, they started doing construction right near me, so we might have some unusual musical accompaniment. I don't know how much of that you can hear or not, but anyway, on with the show. So I just did something that I don't do very frequently. Oh, this is really funny. It was sporadic, and now it's really fired up. Anyway, I have a water pick. I've had it for a long time. I don't even know how long at this point. I know that my family started using water picks when I was a child. So I've had my own for probably decades at this point, I guess. Now, I don't use it all the time, actually pretty infrequently, but it kind of makes me laugh every time I use one because, I brush my teeth. I have an electric toothbrush because I'm lazy and it does all the work for me. So, you go through it, 2 minutes, do your upper, your lower, be as thorough as possible. And then you fire up the water pick, and huge chunks of food are flying out of your mouth. Like, how did that stay in there when I brushed my teeth? I don't know. I think that dentistry might be a scam. Anyway, what's today? Today is Thursday, June 8th, 2023. This is Chocolate Yoddah Live, and today I wanted to talk about my friend in life and my partner in podcasting for the beginning of this podcast. If you've watched the show before, especially in our early days, his nickname is Chancleta. And for those of you who don't know what that is, and I mean white people, Chancleta is a slipper, specifically a flip-flop, right? Although it probably could be more than a flip-flop, but we think of it as a flip-flop. And, it's a weapon that mothers in Hispanic households use against their children. They whip them with them, If you're messing up, Chancleta is a terrifying thing. So we started off, we launched officially on March 20th. I think it was either the 20th or the 21st, whatever the first day of spring was. I believe it was March 20th, 2021. 2021. We started filming in March of 2020. We didn't post right away because I had no idea what I was doing. We had to figure out how cameras worked, how microphones work, how do I edit video, how do I edit audio, all that stuff, right? I am the graphic artist for the podcast, for good, bad, or indifferent. This frame that's around me right now is something that I created. I didn't use it for the first couple, but I just figured, hey, let me put it on there since I use it for other podcasts. And the first video that we posted, and this is pre-launch, so this wasn't, an official video, so to speak. But that was, I believe, September of 2020. And, as a matter of fact, I can show you a screenshot from that. So this is what the thumbnail looks like. Well, no, actually, no, that's not what the thumbnail looks like. That's the opening few seconds. And I think my Facebook banner was this. So, two dudes, random thoughts, the persistent rumor with Chancleta and Chocolate Yoddah. And there I am, Chocolate Yoddah. And on the right, that handsome, beautiful man, Chancleta. And while I'm at the whole thing of artwork, here's my first logo ever. I did this in August of 2020, and I didn't know anything about graphics programs, so I did this in Publisher. Easy for me to say. I did this in Publisher for all you tech geeks out there, and then I eventually discovered, the official programs that people use to create and modify images. I create images in what's it called, Inkscape, which is a free version of the software that professionals use, which is Adobe Illustrator. And then sometimes I modify them in GIMP, and these are both free programs, so that's perfect for me. And so this is the most recent version of the logo. Oh, it's a beauty. And that took me 2.5 years from the first logo to learn how to do this and to get it looking how I want. I have hundreds and hundreds of versions of the logo, stuff I like, so, stuff I don't like, experiments, all that kind of stuff. But that's my very, very important graphics journey. So I brought up Chancleta to talk about my friendship with him. We way before we started podcasting, we met at a job in 2001. We were both in financial services, and I walked in one day, and sitting right across from me in the aisle where my desk was this enormous man. I didn't know how enormous he was. He's a big fella. He was rocking about 380 back then. And he was sitting down. Saw him, knew immediately it was a new guy, introduced myself, and he stood up and blocked out the sun. He's 6'5". It's funny to me that people regularly refer to me as big guy or big man. Right? Out on the street, I get that all the time, big man. And, it's true. I mean, I'm morbidly obese, so that's part of it. I'm not particularly tall. I'm 5'11", slightly above average, I guess, but he's 6'5". I'm surrounded by tall men. My son is 6'4". They're both show-offs as far as I'm concerned. But we started talking, and we very, very quickly fell into a friendship rhythm. I remember I was taunting him, and this was I believe, day one. I was taunting him about the fact that he had not seen the film Glengarry Glen Ross. And I know back then, whenever they started people at that job, I believe they always started them on a Thursday, I think because of the pay cycle. And I remember I was just busting on him, and I'm like, if you don't watch this film over the weekend, don't come back in. Now, I didn't know that Chancleta has a condition known as oppositional defiance, so he didn't do it, but I ragged on him Monday so hard that he relented and watched the film that week. For salespeople, it's one of the best films. It basically has every sales archetype that you're ever going to meet. For a while, we went on sales calls together. I was sort of, his sales buddy / mentor. And, when you're out knocking on doors and talking to people, you're spending a lot of time together. And, work breakfast, work lunch, work dinner. And then eventually that turned into hanging out. Eventually that turned into doing karaoke together. And, over the first couple of years that we knew each other, we spent a lot of time together. his time and my time at that job ended. He quit a little bit before I did, um, but we both went to work for the same independent sales organization. We call them ISOs. And, he had gone first, told me about it. And so I went. I left a job on a Friday, and on Monday I had a new position. It was independent, so it wasn't the corporate kind of gig, but it was a great fun. So the time I spent with him in that office was just hilarious. We didn't get all that much work done, but we had a lot of fun. I was a trainer in that office, and we had a lot of fun with trainees. We just continued spending time together, and we still work together once in a while. And one of the things that we did at the job where we met was on commission day, which was the first of every month. You got a pretty big check. It was thousands of dollars, and we would just mess around the whole day. Like, we'd go into the office in the morning just because, we had to. That was, standard operating procedure. And then we would just piss the rest of the day away. We'd go have a very, very long lunch. We'd go to the Art of Shaving and get a straight razor shave. We'd goof around, go clothes shopping. And mind you, we were under quota, so this was really not a good idea because, we had work to do. But we both had that sort of, fight the power kind of mentality, and same penchant for buggery. And we would finish the day with a pretty long dinner as well. Definitely never shorter than 2 hours. And sometimes our ladies would join us, and it was just a lot of fun. So that, and then the next job, while we were there, I got the idea to start my own independent office. Very small scale. For a while, it was just the two of us. Eventually, I partnered with someone else. That was a disaster because he was a jackass. But we just wound up spending so much time together. Always working, always grinding together, and learning about one another. And we just, we were fast friends, but we became deep friends as well. And I remember within 3 months of knowing him, I asked him to be an usher at my wedding. Well, I don't want to make it sound grandiose. He was the one and only usher at my wedding, and that was in October 2001. So, as time went on, it became very obvious to me that, he was easily the best friend I've ever had. And frankly, I believe he's the best friend that any man could possibly have. He is loyal beyond description, supportive in everything, has saved my ass on several different occasions. That's the main thread among all my friends. And when I say all, we're talking about, 3 to 5 people. And I don't count my son among my friends because we're not friends. We're father and son, but the people that I consider my friends, they all are extremely supportive. Anything I've ever needed, emotional support, financial support, housing, just a caring ear, just company, anything, whatever it is you can think of. And so, he's proven himself throughout the years. We've known each other 22 years now, and he makes me laugh like nobody else. My son is extraordinarily funny also. So he's really hilarious, but Chancleta is, he's funny in a way that it doesn't even make sense to describe, because there's no way that I could describe it in a way that you would fully understand. The only way that anyone would understand it is to experience it. He has this uncanny and unbelievable ability to break the tension. Now, I'm not a whiner, but, things weigh heavy on my mind sometimes, and I'll share them with him always. And, there's nothing that he doesn't know about. If he wanted to cancel me, he easily could. Just our text exchanges alone would do me federal time, more than likely. But I trust him with everything. So, when I'm prattling on about something bothering me, I might be talking for 3, 5, 10 minutes, just blah, 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 woe is me, whatever. And with 3 to 5 words, he can just completely do a pattern interrupt that has me in stitches. And just, I've never met anybody that could do that. And I might be offended at other people that tried to do that. Like, hey man, I'm talking to you about something serious, but it's so funny that it's impossible to deny it. It's for me, it's impossible to get angry at. It's brilliant. And most of the time it's just what I need. So, he's my confidant. He's my consigliere. And anyone that says consigliere, please shut up. But he's my go-to guy. I barely have any phone calls with anyone, and I talk to him several times a week. I don't think we go a week normally without talking on the phone 3, 4, 5 times. No problem. And when it came time to start the podcast, it was actually his idea for the name, The Persistent Rumor. And I remember I was on the phone with him. We were talking about starting the podcast. This was going back to probably the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020, kind of coincided with the pandemic. And I remember asking, what should we call this thing? And he did not hesitate at all. He said, The Persistent Rumor. And I was like, oh, yeah. And he said, you say that all the time. And I did. It's a phrase that I employed regularly. The persistent rumor of American greatness, the persistent rumor of protecting children, the persistent rumor of death. Everything is a persistent rumor. Like, I don't know what death is. I just know the persistent rumor is that we all die, right? So the fact that he thought of it and I didn't is pretty amazing. But he's the one that named the podcast. And like I said earlier, in March, we started filming, and I believe by August or so is when we started posting. And then the official first episode, The Persistent Rumor #1, is March 20th, 2021. So I'll wrap up this conversation by basically just saying I just can't imagine my life without Chancleta. And as I mentioned earlier, as I'm struggling with my own gas, as I mentioned earlier, he's my best friend. I've known him for 22 years, and I don't know what I would do without him. When I'm doing my thing day to day, I'll see something, my favorite thing to do is when I see a dwarf, I take a photo of it because I love seeing dwarves. I'm fascinated by dwarves, and I feel bad if their life is a struggle, which I assume it has to be at a certain level, but I just find them amazing. The variation in human life is just amazing to me. And the fact that once in a while the assembly line, pushes out a dwarf is just wild to me. And so I'll take a photo and I'll send it to him. And I've been doing that for the longest time, since the beginning, basically. I've seen construction worker dwarves, Hasidic dwarves, wife-beater dwarves. I've seen so many variations, and they're always amazing. I even saw a stripper dwarf once on the subway. There was a dwarf convention going on in Brooklyn, and I was getting off in downtown Brooklyn, and there were all these dwarves on the train. It was my heaven. It was the greatest thing ever. And then I got above ground, and there were dwarves everywhere. It's brilliant, brilliant. So anyway, back to Chancleta. He's the most amazing friend. We did, I believe, either 23 or 24 episodes together, and then, he's the busiest guy I know, and eventually his life got too busy to do the podcast with me. But if you go back to the YouTube channel, which this is on, The Persistent Rumor on YouTube, youtube.com, listen to me, youtube.com/@thepersistentrumor. That's my channel. Please like and subscribe. You ever notice that everyone asks you to like and subscribe? There's a reason for that. It's like the main thing that grows your channel. So please like, subscribe, comment if you will, share it, please. If you like anything I do, let a friend know about it. Sharing is caring. Sharing is nice, right? But if you want to go through the earliest ones, the first one we did was about weddings. I think we were talking about his wedding, my wedding, something like that. And then the first official episode was basically about mental health, and it was really, really good. We never planned what we were going to do on the podcast. Very rarely did we even tell each other what the topic was, because that was my desire. Because I said, listen, I basically want to capture the phone conversations that we have, and we don't prepare each other for our phone conversations. One of us picks up the phone, the other answers, and we're off to the races. And I wanted to capture that energy. And I think most of the podcasts that we have are an excellent representation of that. I mean, there are some episodes where we're just cracking each other up left and right, going down memory lane, telling stories. Some of them are about, politics and religion, society, sex, relationships, gender identity. We've covered all of the hot topics of the day and whatever thing was on our minds. Some of them are goofy. Some of them are possibly useless, but I think they're all interesting. Of course, I'm biased. Doesn't mean I'm wrong, though. But like I said, even this podcast wouldn't exist without him. Like, my ability to talk to you now is a direct result of learning how to talk to him on camera, and I don't think I ever would have progressed to this point, if I can categorize it as a progression at all, were it not for his involvement. I sincerely doubt, knowing myself as I do, that I would have chosen to start off doing a solo podcast. I tried along the way. I started the chocolate chat aspect of this podcast, and it was just me talking into the camera. Eventually, I started getting guests. And as a matter of fact, tomorrow, Friday the 9th, there should be a new episode coming out of Chocolate Chat. But my earliest episodes were no longer than like 3 to 5 minutes. I really didn't know how to sustain this, soliloquy essentially for longer than that. But through working with him, I think we worked for about 1.5 years together on the podcast. And, I learned everything. I learned how to edit audio. This is a really cheap mic, but, I learned how to make it sound good through free software. And, learned all of the graphics, all the YouTube thumbnails are things that I do. Every graphic that springs up, it's all stuff that I've learned how to do. And he was the springboard for all of that. And, he's just the most beautiful man that I've ever known. Aside from being a shockingly handsome fella, he's also just a beautiful human being. And my life is all the better for every moment that I've known him. So I guess that wraps it up. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to talk about. Thank you to my best friend Chancleta for everything you do, every way that you are. I love you. I respect you. And my only hope is that we'll be together forever as friends. Or if you ever change your mind, something else. When the Me Too thing started, the first thing that we said is, man, if anyone ever sees our texts, we're going to jail. We do more sexual harassment of each other than anyone. But yeah, that's it for now, folks. It's been a pleasure knowing my friend Chancleta. Like I said, I just hope it continues, man. My days are only complete because they contain him in it. And hey, I suppose that's it. Peace, love, and granola. Talk to you soon.